Troy Elder with Elder's Best Bakery again. This week is Pan de Mie, which is just a sandwich loaf. We went over some sourdoughs last week, or actually last 2 weeks. We did a white sourdough and a whole wheat version. And this week we're just going to do a regular sandwich loaf, like your Wonder Bread or whatever, Merita bread or whatever kind of bread brand that you buy at the grocery store. Same thing, just better, because there's no artificial preservatives or shelf stabilizers or any of that stuff in it. It's mostly all natural stuff, maybe with the exception of maybe the potato stuff in there. But we'll get to that. I got a KitchenAid mixer. I'm going to use the mixer method. You can do this by hand if you want to. Prepare yourself for a workout if you do. But I like the mixer. You got the mixer, that's the way to go. And you can do this in a bread machine, but I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, just if you don't have a mixer, just do it by hand. Okay, so the recipe calls for 150 grams of milk, 250 grams of water, 85 grams of butter here, and we got, I think, 10 grams of salt, using the pink Himalayan salt that we use at the bakery, and then 45 grams of sugar here, and then 35 grams of powdered milk, which someone asked me on Facebook when I posted this recipe, what exactly is it. It's like evaporated milk. Here in the States, you can Carnation evaporated milk, but it's just a powdered milk, and that's all it is. And then you got powdered, so we got 45 grams of sugar already covered, the powdered milk already covered, then the potato flour is 45 grams. Now, I didn't have potato flour, so I'm using instant potatoes, and that's going to work the same. It's going to just give it the same texture. This is just to lighten it up, the loaf, and give it that, you know, that flavor, that texture that you want in a sandwich loaf. So, if you don't have every ingredient, sometimes there are, tricks you can get out of it. And then I've got the bread flour here, and then of course finally, it's 567 grams of bread flour, by the way, and 10 grams of instant yeast. And the liquids have been preheated a little, so that this recipe will go a little faster for the sake of shooting a YouTube video. But you don't have to do that. You can have everything at room temperature and it will turn out just fine. But I would not recommend starting this recipe with any cold ingredients. That would just slow things down too much. Remember, doughs or anything, whether it's fermented like it was last week or it has a yeast component, anything that's alive, it's going to grow faster when it's warmer and slower when it's colder. So I preheated the milk and the water a little bit, and the butter, of course, has been microwaved to room temperature. If you don't have the softened butter feature on your microwave, just take it out of the fridge in enough time so that it's softened. So these ingredients just go all into the mixer and then get mixed up with the regular mixer attachment to start. And then once they're combined, we'll switch over to the dough hook. And then we'll go from there and knead the dough. And I believe it's about 8 to 10 minutes. Or 5 to 8 minutes you knead the dough. And then we'll transfer it over to this bowl, cover it up, and let it rest, okay? So let's get that going. We'll start out with just the mixer on just a stir speed. And we're going to just add the ingredients. Water, milk, this butter here. I have these little tools, and I weighed all this stuff to the ground, so pardon me for being exact here. Salt. Normally you would not put salt in with a yeast or any kind of live dough, because it does slow down the growth. But since we warmed up the milk, I'm not going to worry about it. little bit of time to incorporate. Lost a few little drops here and there. Alright, sound, you can tell it's already mixed. So I can stop it there, because now it's time for the dough hook. And I'll let you see, you'll see what it looks like here in a second. Okay. So basically, we've got a dough. It's just rough, shaggy dough, like when we made our sourdoughs. It's not got any shape or body to it at all because we have not activated the gluten, which causes it to form structure. So, I'm going to switch over to the dough hook now. And we'll let this run on speed 4 for about 5 to 8 minutes. But it'll start coming away from the sides of the bowl. And when it starts to come away from the sides of the bowl and form a ball, it'll spin the ball around a little bit, but about 5 to 8 minutes, we should have a dough that's ready to work. So just a few more minutes and you'll put the ball in there. And we're going to shake it a little bit and put the ball in there for a couple hours. And you'll be back. Okay, we are back. It's been about 5 to 8 minutes. We're closer to 8. And we've got a dough that's holding itself together. It's pulled up to the sides of the ball. And you can see here, I can just take it out in one piece, right? I'm going to put it here on our countertop, our clean countertop. I'm putting that back on. It's got to be washed. Anyway, so we've got our dough here, and I told you we were going to work it a little bit more, and that's just basically just shaping it into a ball. That's what we're going to do. It's not going to be perfect here because this is a yeast dough, and it develops its gluten from that kneading process that we just did in the mixer, and from its rise. And like I said, this is going to be about 1 to 2 hours. I'll take its temperature here. So it's 84 degrees and 85 degrees, so that's a lot warmer than room temperature, and that's just fine for us. Now, I've got a lightly greased bowl. Just going to set that in there, cover it up with a kitchen cloth or whatever. It doesn't have to be a close for baguettes or anything like that. But then we'll just wait for a couple hours and come back, and we'll see how much the dough's risen, and then we'll transfer it over to the Pullman loaf pan that I'll show you. Okay, we are back, and the dough's time to rise and double in size, or a bit more than double in size. What we've got here, and we're just going to take it and punch it down and turn it out onto a lightly greased work surface here. We got our dough. Yeast has done its thing. Now I'm just going to shape this into a log shape to go in this Pullman 14-inch loaf pan. You can get this on eBay, not eBay, but Amazon rather. Sorry about that. And they're pretty easily priced, and if you're going to bake at home for your family like once a week or twice a week, whatever your family needs are, and make your bread fresh at home instead of buying at the grocery store, you really need to get yourself one of these. It turns out these square loaves, you know, looks just like a loaf of bread. And I'll just take this dough here and shape it into a 13-inch round log shape that goes inside of here. And then I'll put it in here and we'll cover it with some lightly greased plastic wrap and just put it in the top here with the cover off and let it rise until it's almost an inch or so from the top. And then it'll be ready to go in the oven and bake. And we'll bake it with the lid on for a little while, about 15 minutes, and then we'll take the lid off and finish it, okay? And I'll give you the temperatures and all of that when I get back. I apologize for just this singular view, but I'm a one-man show here. I don't have a cameraman or anything or anybody to help me even, so have to do the best that we can. But we've got our dough here. I want it to be about the size and shape of this. So it's pretty easy to handle at this point. It's nice and soft and pliable. The yeast has done its work, or is doing this work. And I've already pre-greased this pan here. So I'm just going to take it and lie in there nice and gently. This plastic wrap here. Cover it up. It doesn't have to be airtight. Just cover it up nicely. Alright, and we'll let that sit at room temperature for a couple hours or until it comes up to about an inch, inch and a half from the top. And then when it does that, we'll be back and we'll put it in the oven and I'll show you temperatures and everything to set it at, and we'll bake it and I'll show you what a nice, beautiful loaf it produces. We'll see you here in a few minutes. Okay, we're back and it's been about an hour. The dough is risen nicely. You can see from this that it's about an inch from the top or so. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take and cover this pan with its lid, and we've got an oven that's preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and once it comes to temperature in about 10 minutes or so, well, it's coming to temperature, but I'm going to cover this for about 10 minutes and let it rest again, and then we'll pop this into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20-25 minutes, and then I'll take the lid off and finish it for another 15 minutes or so. And when it's done, we'll be back and I'll show you what a finished pan de mie loaf looks like, or a sandwich loaf looks like, and we will go from there. So we'll see you back here shortly. Okay, we are back, and little confession here. I made a mistake. Well, not a mistake, but I fell asleep during the proofing process there. And if you did not notice, maybe you did, that when I came to show you the proof dough, it had more than doubled in size. It had quadrupled in size. But you know, when you're running a small business and you're trying to manage a YouTube channel, and things just, well, hello kitty, hello kitty. Things just get out of control and fast. So the dough overproofed is what it did. But I punched it down and put it in the pan anyway, just so I can finish the video. Like I said, I do these videos from start to finish, any, cutting or anything. I do some, editing in post, but other than that, there's no edit and there's no cuts or anything like that. So what we end up with, and we've overproofed the dough, that means that when I put it in the pan for the second proof, it didn't rise quite like it should have. It should have come up to the top almost get to the top. You saw that, and then when I put the lid on it and put it in the pan, it should have continued that rise and come up to the top, or even past the top a little bit. All right, but it didn't do that. And the reason, if you remember when I talked the last two videos, with doughs, you want to put them in the oven when they're right at the almost at the top of the peak of the bell curve there. And since I let it overproof, it had reached its peak, and I put it in the oven on the downward fall of the bell curve, and it didn't rise anymore. It just stopped where it was. Okay, so what you'll end up with is, you know, a smaller loaf and a denser loaf. Okay, and this is not going to be good for sandwiches, but it turned out okay. You can get one of these thermometers. You need an instant read thermometer if you get it. You don't want to get a thermometer that is slow in responding. These, you just put it right in, and it's going to get a reading. It's 190 now, but I've let it cool out here for a little bit while I did some other things. It should be about 210 when it's finished, and that's true of all breads. All breads usually around 210 when they finish, but this one's been cooling in its pan a little bit, so it's at 190. And then I would turn it out like I did here, and then let it finish cooling. And if I hadn't have made a mistake and it had proofed properly, it would have been larger and lighter and fluffier. So just keep in mind that, you know, even if the pros make mistakes, so do not sweat it if you make a mistake. But I was just very tired. I spent the weekend getting all the e-commerce stuff set up for the websites, and I spent all week. I think I worked 80 something hours last week in the bakery. So yeah, I fell asleep in my chair setting up, and this dough overproofed. And when this is the results, you get a dense loaf that didn't rise quite where you wanted it to, and you're not going to go. I mean, you could use that. I'll probably make breadcrumbs out of it. I'm a big don't waste things type person, but too bad. I'd like to be able to show you this finished and, you know, maybe cut it or something. One thing I can show you is, you know, you may wonder, well, what do I do with these, you know, loaves? You know, I don't have any way of doing that like they do, but you can get a device like this on the internet as well. See, and in combination with a good bread knife, and a bread knife is one that's serrated, then you would be able to put it in here, pull it up against the side, and then it guides you when you make your cuts. And you should never cut it warm, but since this bread's ruined anyway, I'm going to cut it warm. And you can see, I mean, it's got a decent crumb to it, but it's dense. You know, it's not you know, light and fluffy like it should be. You know, this, you can make French toast out of this. That's something else. Just, you know, just because you make a mistake and something doesn't turn out the way you want to doesn't mean you can't find another purpose for it. Just don't throw it in the trash and waste it. Okay, so I guess that will conclude this week's version of Elder's Best Baking at Home with our home recipes. We will be back next week. I'm probably going to switch it up next week and get away from the breads and just do something maybe in the dessert category. We'll see. Yeah. And as you can tell, the sun has risen. iPad's changed from dark mode to light mode. The sun's coming up now, and I've got to get to work in the bakery, so I will get off here, and I guess I'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Thank you for watching Troy Elder with Elder's Best Bakery in Salisbury, North Carolina. We'll see you guys next week.